Hi, I'm Phyllis, southernfrugal.com. Today for our main meal of the day, we're going to have, we'll just call it ham and cabbage roll. We're going to make this with phyllo little sheets of pastry, and I'm going to put some cheese in there and all that. But the first thing we need to do is sort of par cook the cabbage. Now, what I'm going to do is try to use some of the green leaves on the cabbage too, just to give it some color. So I'm going to just take those off first. Now, I'm not washing this ahead of time because I'm going to be washing it in the pot. So what we're going to do is cook it for about 15 or 20 minutes, just until it barely gets tender. Now all these leaves look pretty good, so I'm going to just cut them in half. And then just put them on top of each other. Really, let's put them like that. Get that stem side all together. We're just going to cut some thin slices. And again, I don't really wash this until I'm getting it in the pot, rather than try to wash the whole head of cabbage, and you don't really get in between the leaves when you do that. And when I was picking out this cabbage, I was trying to pick one where the leaves looked pretty good. And those are going to be the tough stems that are going to take much longer to cook, really. All right. So now we're going to take not even half of the head of cabbage, maybe about 1/3 of it. Cut it down like that. You notice I don't have any the middle part of it. And see, there's a bug. Can y'all see that? That's why I don't. There's no point in washing it. Now the bug was dead, of course, but still. All right, so now we're going to slice this really thin too. And we're going to make enough to make 7 of the little ham and cabbage rolls. Now see, even when we got that thick stalk there, if you just cut it kind of in two. I think I've got a couple of little dogs in my kitchen. They always know when I'm recording and they come in here. Alright, so this should definitely be enough. And again, I wanted those outer leaves for the color. So now I'm going to cut these in half to make them sort of the same length as the lighter green leaves. Alright, so I'm going to put that in the little pot here. I'm going to jiggle it all up so everything separates. Alright, so I'm going to give this a couple of good rinses at the sink. Then I'm going to put it on the stove and cook it for about 15 minutes or until it's just barely tender. And we'll be back. Alright, we allowed the cabbage to cook actually for about 25 minutes because these little green leaves definitely take longer. So now what we're going to do is dump it out on a couple of these dish towels. And the reason we're doing this is to get all or as much of the moisture out as we can. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to divide it into 7 little sections. And the reason I'm doing that is because we are going to make 7 of these rolls. So that looks about right. I'm just just going to take that across, sort of pat them dry. All right, so while the cabbage was cooking, I shredded up about a cup, I think that's about a cup of sharp cheddar cheese. So I'm going to also divide this into 7 sort of equal sections, so I can get roughly the same amount on each of the rolls. So that looks about right. All right, so we're going to set this all to one side. I'm going to put it right over here. You do need some room when making these, so I'll put this over here. And you will need a pan, and if you have parchment paper, it would be good to use the parchment paper. This pan, I believe, is 10 by 15, or put some kind of oil or grease on the pan. So we're going to set that aside. We've got our cabbage here divided up, allowing it to kind of dry out a little bit. And we've got our cheese. And the reason we're doing 4 sections is because, hold on. We're going to wrap these with the phyllo. Let me see, I can't get that in my camera because of the, there it is. Can y'all see that? Let me move y'all out a little bit. Yeah, and you can find these in the freezer section, usually close to the fruit, in almost all supermarkets, and you certainly can find it in Walmart. Now, each of the sections, here's one of the sections. It has 2 sections in it, and each one contains 20 phyllo leaves. And so what you want to do is take one out a couple of hours before you need it, or take it out and put it in the bottom of the refrigerator and leave it, you know, like if you're going to have it one night, take it out the night before, and just put it in the bottom of the refrigerator and let it be thawing out. All right, let me put this back. All right, so the other thing we're going to need is some ham. Now, this is Hormel natural ham, and Mr. Bucky and I have already had about 4 little slices out of here, but it's thin sliced. And this gave me a little bit of a start when I first read it about the cherry and the celery juice as a preservative and the cherry powder. However, I had eaten it several times before I noticed that, and it had no ill effects, so of course I know that I can have this. So it comes with 16 pieces, and they're very thin, and again, we have already eaten 4 of those little slices on a sandwich here a couple of days ago. So I've got 11 pieces left. So I'm making 7 of these rolls. And the reason I'm making 7 is because of the 20 sheets of the phyllo dough. And so I've got enough to make 6 using 3 sheets for each roll. And then one of the little rolls is only going to have 2 sheets. All right, so I'm going to leave this out for just a little while. Actually, I'm going to put it on a saucer, so hold on a minute. All right, I took the ham apart, and these slices are just paper thin. They're kind of hard to get apart, so once we start making the little ham and cabbage rolls, I don't want to be fiddling around trying to get these apart. So I've got 7 that I'm going to make, so I cut the pieces in half, and I'll just figure out whatever I need to do on that. All right, so now we're ready. We've got the ingredients, and again, you don't have to use this kind of ham. You could use any kind of ham you want to. I just happen to really like this type. All right, and a little tip when you're melting butter, because we're going to need a half a cup of melted butter, and you don't want it to be real hot, so you need to melt this ahead of time. Take the little wrapper that comes with the butter, put it over the top so it doesn't spew all over your microwave. At least I think that helps a lot. All right, so we're now ready. Now what we want to do, I'll put my ingredients over there. To work with this phyllo dough, you need to have a wet or just really damp rag, because this will dry out just super, super fast. So we're going to unwrap the whole roll, and we're going to put it in this towel, and then we're going to butter each piece just like if you were making baklava. Get out my little trusty brush, and I need my scissors. So we're going to cut this out now of the wrapper and unroll it. Now when you buy the phyllo, you need to absolutely check the date on it, because if you get it and it's old, you have a lot of trouble with the leaves getting them apart. Also, it has to be completely thawed out. All right, so it's going to come on this little plastic thing here, so you can unroll it from that. See what I mean? Some of them kind of came apart a little bit, but that's all right. We can still use them. All right, so I'm going to leave it on the plastic it comes on and leave it in this towel. I'm going to actually turn it over because the first leaf is kind of messed up. So is the second, but that's okay. We can still use it. All right, so we're going to push this back out of the way, and I want 3 leaves per ham and cabbage roll. So we're going to take one of these leaves out. And again, don't worry if they're ripped a little bit. And what we want to do, let me get it down where y'all can see. Oops, sorry. So what we want to do is just put a little bit of butter here and there on that first one. I just do it like that because on the first one it's hard to scrape across it like that. All right, and so now we're ready for the second one. Put that one down. More butter. And when you bake these, now I've got my oven preheating to 350 degrees, and these are going to bake for about 30 minutes. All right, now we're ready for the next one. Just gently pull them apart. Now the fresher these are, the easier they are to work with, but you know, you can't always get them fresh, as fresh as you want them. See, this one's kind of sticking together, but it doesn't make any difference. We're going to use it anyway. Put that one down, and then put a little more butter on this one. And what you're doing is making these paper thin layers. They're going to be very buttery and crispy. All right, now I'm covering up my dough now, because we don't want it to dry out. All right, so now we're ready for the filling. Move this back here. Ready for that filling now. All right, so we're going to take the well, first we're going to take a slice of ham, put it down kind of at the end, and then we're going to take the cabbage, put that right on top of it, and then we're going to take the cheese, put that right on top of the cabbage, and then we want another half. In your case, if you have enough, you can go ahead and use another whole piece of the ham. So now we're going to gently roll it up, give it a couple of rolls, then turn the rolls in like this. Now all this is going to end up very crunchy, and just keep rolling it up. Don't worry about any little defects in the dough. I'm just going to paint the top of that with some butter. Then we're going to put it on our sheet. All right, we're going to make one more and let y'all watch. And again, this phyllo dough is kind of hard to work with, but once you get the hang of it, and once you realize it doesn't matter if it tears a little bit or whatever, because the final result will still be okay. You just have to gently take it apart. And this one's really messing up. But guess what? We're going to use it anyway. So I can get that last part off. There we go. Really wants to stick together. All right, see, that's good enough. Doesn't make a bit of difference. So we're going to put some butter on that. And they have started making these smaller than they used to. It's like they're making them so you can make baklava and not have to trim anything off of them, I think. But I do remember them being longer than this. I'll go ahead and take both of these out at one time. And put it down. Don't worry about anything that's ripped or whatever. You just want to get butter in there in between these layers. All right, now we're ready for our next one. Right on top, three little pieces each, because once you roll it up, you're going to have a lot of sections. Butter on that. And wherever if the phyllo leaf, tore a little bit, don't even worry about it. All right, now we're going to put the ham down. Put it down at this end. Let me turn that around, cover my leaves back up, because they will dry out literally in seconds. All right, now we're going to put our cabbage on top of the ham. Leave a little more on that one. And then we're going to put our cheddar cheese on top of that. Another little piece of ham. And now we're ready to roll it up again. Just gently roll it right over. After you've rolled it around a couple of times, then bend the sides in like that. All this is going to end up really super crunchy and delicious. And just finish rolling it. And just put your seam, make sure your seam is right on the bottom when you put it down on the baking sheet. Just going to coat the top of it with a little more butter, and it goes on the sheet. All right, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and finish rolling the rest of these now. Once I'm into more of the middle section of this phyllo leaves, it becomes easier to get them apart, just so y'all know. All right, we'll be back. All right, we finished rolling all of them. We've got 7. And the last one, I had a little extra ham that I went ahead and put in that one. I'm just going to brush them one more time with the butter. They're going to go in a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes or until they're golden brown. All right. We're ready to go. Again, I put a little, that extra piece really, or extra half of the ham in one of these just so I could use it up. All right, they're going in the oven. We'll be back. All right, we are back on the other side of the cooktop, and we're getting ready to make a side dish to go with the ham and cabbage rolls. And this is a recipe, somewhat of a recipe, that came from my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, and he has become quite the cook, I understand. And he found this recipe in, I believe, a Southern Living magazine, and I'm not sure when he found it, a year or so maybe ago. And it's for ginger glazed carrots, and it's really a really simple recipe. Now, he gave me the recipe over the telephone, and it was in with some other papers and it got thrown away. And so I was too embarrassed to call back and say, I can't find the recipe. So I know what's in it, so we're just going to wing it. Now, and let me say that when you find a recipe, or even certainly one of my recipes, alter them in whatever way you need to. I mean, that's the way you come up with really good recipes, by trying different things. So you could alter this one too, and I don't know what way, but you could. So anyway, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, I've already peeled and sliced my carrots a little bit on the diagonal, and you want to slice them, you know, not real thick, sort of thin. So we're going to put those in the pot. One escaped already on the floor. And this is 4 slices of ginger, just fresh ginger that's been chopped up. Now I peel my ginger and freeze it with sugar, and so that's what this is, but it's just like, as you can see, it's just like fresh ginger. Only it's much easier to cut in little pieces when it's sort of partially frozen. Now to this pot, we're going to add 1 cup of orange juice. Now this is the kind of, I don't really drink orange juice, but Mr. Bucky does. And this is his brand. So we're going to borrow a cup of his orange juice. And that's what we're going to cook these carrots and the ginger in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner on. Go ahead and put the juice in there. Now we've got a couple more ingredients that we're going to add, but for right now we're going to cook these until they're just barely tender. All right, we'll be back. All right, we are back, and I wanted to mention too that after these started boiling, I added 2 tablespoons of butter. Now we're ready to put the last ingredients in. This is 3 good-sized tablespoons of sugar and 2 tablespoons of corn starch. Now I have got my silicone thing, so I'm not scraping the bowl with the spoon, and I hope y'all will notice that I did that, okay? So I'm going to mix that sugar and the cornstarch up, and to this mixture I'm going to add 1/2 cup of water. And just kind of stir that around until that cornstarch gets dissolved. Now my carrots are tender now, and it really only takes maybe 5 or 6 minutes. All right, now we're going to add this to the carrots and the orange juice. Just dump it in. We're going to let it come back to a boil, and then it's going to get a little bit translucent. Not a whole lot though, because it's got that butter in there. We're just going to stir it. Once it starts boiling and the little sauce starts getting clearer, it'll be ready, and it'll also start getting thick. And it's already there. Just keep stirring it a little bit. Alright, now if you want it thinner than this, you can add a little more orange juice, which is what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to put just a little more, maybe, I don't know, 1/4 of a cup. Yeah, that'll work. Now you could put spices in this too if you wanted to. I mean, it's already got the ginger in it, but you could also put like nutmeg, cinnamon, or whatever you want. Now I'm just fixing enough for me and Mr. Bucky to have some with this meal and maybe another meal too. I'm going to add another little bit of orange juice. So I probably added an additional 1/2 cup of orange juice. So I'm going to let that get a little bit thicker by coming back up to a boil, and then hopefully our ham and cabbage rolls will be ready. Alright, so we'll be back when we get this on the plates. Alright, we are ready to eat the main meal of the day, and here are the carrots, and I'm quite delighted with those. Those little pieces are ginger, and they are absolutely delicious. Now, I had that much left because I do remember my brother-in-law saying that he did a whole pound of carrots where I only did 2, but this is delicious. So that almost looks like a pudding. Anyway, there are the ham and cabbage rolls, and they turned out really, really well. Now they're super hot, so we're going to let this sit here for about 5 minutes because I just took them out of the oven. We've got our iced tea. And anyway, let me turn this around and talk to y'all for a minute. All right, so working with the phyllo dough is hard, okay? You have to be very patient and very delicate with it. Now, let me put this on the stand. Hold on. Okay, I can't talk holding the camera too, you know, like I can't chew gum and walk, that kind of thing. Anyway, in the 1960s, I think I might have mentioned this before, I worked with two young ladies whose parents were from Greece, and one of the girls' parents had a Greek restaurant. And so sometimes at lunch, she would go there to help them, and she'd take orders from us. So I absolutely learned to love Greek food. It was so good. So that really kind of flavored some of the ways I cook to do with the Greek food. So I really love it. Anyway, I hope you'll try the phyllo dough. You can do all kinds of things with it. You just have to treat it just ever so gently. And try to make sure when you buy it, you get it, look at the end of the box and make sure the date is really good on it, because if it's not, it's really hard to work with. All right, y'all, we will see y'all next time. Bye for now.